Greetings, I'm the Waznaki. In this video, my presentation of this video is called Don't Help Those That Don't Help Themselves, and I shall abbreviate what I mean by that. I've learned tragically and painfully in life that people aren't often direct and truthfully and honest. I unfortunately have a condition where if you say anything to me, I will take it as truth. Hence why I'm a very easy target and very easy to manipulate, control, and being taken advantage of like a doormat. What makes it worse though is that there's two sides of me. Is that there's a part of me that can see the red flags, but there's another part of me that goes, no, they're still good people. They're still good people. They're still good. Don't judge them. They're still good people. They're still good. No, they're going to use you. They're going to steal from you. They're going to cause great pain for you. Oh no, that's judging. You can't do that. So I do believe I might have OCPD. Not to get confused with OCD, because OCD is obsessive compulsive disorder. OCPD is obsessive compulsive personality disorder, which I believe I may have, but I have to get a diagnosis first of it. Because every human being has various different ailments. That's what makes us human. I try to understand that, because when not someone commits evil acts, I come to the conclusion that at the start of our life we are beings full of love in us. If you ever noticed babies and children in their development, they're just pure of love. But there comes a point where they become corrupted, their minds become corrupted, their soul becomes corrupted, and they end up going down to dark paths where they end up destroying themselves and those they love and those around them. What I mean by don't help those that don't, it's very important to help people, but you must come to the conclusion that they must first want to help, and number two, they must recognise that they're going down the destructive path. Otherwise, all you're doing is enabling their destructive behaviour. Say if someone has attachment to objects, or someone has attachment to the flesh, or someone has attachment to any other destructive vices, you enabling that behaviour is not helping them the long road, and it's a selfish act on your part. If you truly love them, you would say no to them, you would let them fail, which can be very painful, because you could try and intervene, but you're going to keep on playing the part of someone that's enabling their behaviour, and they never learn from it and they continue going around in circles. I myself, my biggest issue is that because of my condition, is I often want to help people because there's pure love inside myself, but I fail to see that there's that. I fail to see that they have bad intentions, or they weren't true for me. Or example is I tried to help someone who was homeless, a couple of homeless people. The first time I got used and mostly scared. They took some money off me. You would think that that'll make me learn my mistake, but nope, happened three times. Second time not as bad. The third time, the second time was just throwing away resources. All three times. It was kind of like pat myself. Okay, the first time I like it's funny. The first time like I make sure I know it's a genuine person. It turns out not to be the case. Then the second time, I know there's a genuine person. I know. I know. There's a part of me that doesn't want to judge. And if I'm more like, I have a loved one who I admire him greatly because he's never been taken advantage of, and I would love to develop his traits. But there's part of me that doesn't want to judge people because they're still human, and it's. We live in a world that if you judge everyone, then no one will be able to help anyone, but we live in a world that's so corrupted now that people like me, sadly, are very easy targets. We're like, I'm walking the floor for targets. You're right for a target. But it's good to laugh at your pain. Like, oh. Well, I mean, so you don't help those that can't help themselves. It makes a lot of sense. Very grateful for my co-workers to tell me that. It helped me a lot, kind of come to the conclusion that I can only help those that want to help, and if you're trying to help those that don't help themselves, you're enabling them, and you're just, that is not helping them. So sometimes you can help people by simply not helping them, and that's a way of helping people. If you think about it, say if someone's smoking a cigarette and you're giving them money, you'll be giving them money into smoking a cigarette. Or if someone kind of is into drugs and you're giving them money, you're enabling that behaviour. Before you ever help anyone, kind of make sure first that the money is going directly towards actually helping them. Because at times a lot of them will give you a sob story about something, usually a dead relative. That seems to be a common trait amongst people that want to kind of feel sympathy points. They usually either use a dead relative, or they have a funeral coming up, or a sob story about like dysfunctional family units, which may or may not be functional, because they might be making more of what's the word? They might be exaggerating it to a point to feel more sympathy points from you than the reality what it is. Now I myself now am guilty of this as well, where I have I have kind of viewed my own type of pain onto others, and I kind of made them out as more worse than it is, but in truth, I'm just projecting a lot of my insecurities around a lot of things I'm trying to come to terms with, mainly my conditions. Now I have a lot of conditions that they do make me a loving person, but it comes at a cost. I'm not great at prioritising myself. I'm probably, if there was like an award for like the top 100 people that's very bad at prioritising themselves, it'd be me. Kind of very close to Christ, so therefore I try and be like Christ, and I try and be like God, and it's something that it's something that I should not do. It's up to God to do that. It's up to God to. Most people want to connect with God. I shouldn't kind of force myself as like high arbiter of a priest, which funny enough, when I was a child I wanted to become a priest, so that's kind of why I'm kind of instinct to that role of helping people. Funny enough, but it's hard when you see loved ones destroying themselves, but you must let them do so. You can only help them as far as they can want to help themselves, because like if they don't want to help themselves, it's just futile. They're just going to keep around circles. Now I had loved ones and they tried to help me, and the reaction effect is because of my deep insecurities. What I did was, it was a boomerang effect. I explain this because this might help a lot of people as to why a lot of people go this destructive cycle, because they kind of feared. They kind of got a reaction that was very negative, so they end up repeating the cycle again. If you're more compassionate, not as down when you're talking to someone who's made a mistake, because they're more likely to make the mistake again because they're not able to process it. It's the way you talk to them is very important now, from the process their failures, because if you immediately come with condemning or kind of like controlling type of attitude, they're more likely going to do it to spite you again, which I have done multiple times in my life, which I lost count, because there's a part of me that wants to be like independent, to make my own choices, but the sad truth is, it's at times I can't trust myself, because there's a part of my mind that's always in internal conflict with each other. I like hear voices in my head which I consider to be God and devil. Other people would see that as someone who has a split personality disorder. I think I'm just spiritually connected and I have these thoughts. I always had these thoughts ever since I was a kid, so if that's the case, then that since the age of 6 I've had OCPD. I also have other conditions. Let's name the Wisnaki's conditions. I have Asperger's syndrome, Asperger's. I have obsessive compulsive disorder, hence why my hands are like this. because I overwash them so much so the skin comes off. So eventually now I just be nothing but Skeletor. I'm skeleton. Why is that? Well, why did you become a skeleton? Skeleton. This video is going all over the place. Like me, my thoughts race at a very accelerated rate. So I could be talking about one thing and then go on to another thing, very quickly. I'm very highly focused on doing things. I can see patterns in that I'm able to help people when I see they're destructive. This is the irony about where I am. It's somewhat ironic that I'm able from a distance able to see like things that are eventually gonna collapse. Say like people who trying to attempt to form bonds and it can't because you have one person who has very low esteem and very deep insecurities. If you have other one who's likewise, so of course they're gonna have a falling out. There's also fear of other people's perceptions. That's the main reason why people find it difficult to bond. Otherwise, another reason why people find it difficult to bond is because they have inherited attachments to things. They've inherited attachments to objects, they've inherited attachments to flesh, they've inherited attachments to labels and to each other's perceptions and their own expectations of each other. That's why I don't really like calling people friends, close friends. I just call people loved ones. I call loved ones that have lifted me up, loved ones that have really done nothing, and loved ones that have hurt me. And sometimes they can be all three or vice versa. So, because the problem in life by labelling things, people then form so expectations on them, like boyfriend, girlfriend, brother, sister, dinosaur, master, apprentice, like all these different labels, co-worker, colleague, there's so many of them, priest, and doctor, there's so many of these labels, and professor, wizard, witch, and so on. Different labels, some of them being fancy, some of them being in the real world, but brother, sister, mother, cousin, aunt, uncle. I often feel about that people are quick not to understand, because the great thing about where I'm walking is that I can see the different stages of human development, from like a wee baby up to like different stages to a toddler, to a child, up to teenager, up to young adult, up to adult, up to elderly adult, up to an old person. So we all have different development stages in life. Some people mature at a very quick or accelerated rate. Some people are still somewhat immature. Ask me, do I have immaturity inside me? Yeah, of course I do. I busted it. I don't make a mistake once. I make it twice, 3 times, 4 times to be sure. So, don't help those that don't help yourselves. That's my new kind of mottos in life. It's very important to help those, but it's very important to get data, to be skeptical as well, but to kind of deeper and get information and kind of make sure that the information is coherent, so that because a lie that's cannot repeat over and over again. So if someone says one thing, remember what they say, write it down, and if they say something that contradicts what they previously said, then they're more likely just making up on their line. So beware when you're helping people if they have a lot of sob stories, because that's an emotional manipulation tool. Now, the reason now why a lot of people who end up homeless is quite simple. Various different reasons, but usually has to do from childhood. It could be like a situation where a child rebelled against the families which the child perceived as very strict on their creativity and their freedom, so they rebelled and the destructive acts to despite their family in order to get a reaction off them. Say if the family was not as emotional, available in their emotions and their connection, they would do destructive acts in order to get attention from them. Which would develop from childhood into adolescence to adulthood. You have, say, if a child wasn't developed the proper proper independent skills. Say the family did most things for them, so they never developed how to cook, how to clean, how to change a bed, how to do any kind of practical things or to maintain a household or develop in life. They become so dependent on that dynamic as a child that when they become a teenager or an adult, it carries on. Now, I was blessed in my family that my parents were very hard workers. Therefore, they instilled in me to work hard and to kind of do things on myself. So I'm able to cook, clean. I love cooking, cleaning. Can't bake. What I'm able to make bed. I'm able to clean. I love cleaning. I vacuuming. Like the cleaning and dusting stuff. That makes how to maintain that household. So fortunately, many families they don't teach their kids this because they have this thing of always looking after their children all the time, not letting them kind of do things on their own, because they don't let them do things on, they never learn and they never become independent. So when you grow older, then they form that codependency. Now this could happen to either male or female, but it tends to be more common with women in general, because of both men and women have like attachments to objects. I myself have attachments to video games. I have attachments to comics. I've attachment to football. Like all humans have some bit of form of attachments, but when these attachments become when these attachments come so part of yourself that if you were to lose them, that you will have emotional reaction, that is not a good sign. To a point where if you basically were in a burning building and there's these objects there, that you would risk your life to retrieve these objects, even to cost your life just to achieve these objects, that isn't healthy. Or say if you have an object that was put in a dangerous situation or environment where there's also destructive people there, and you're risking your time and energy just to retrieve it because of a fear perception, because it belongs to someone else, that isn't worth it. Like objects aren't worth your own life or your own time and energy. So if you have people who develop like attachments to objects, the flesh, to labels, to various different other type of kind of things in existence, then they'll never be able to, their creativity intelligence is very minuscule. They don't have the ability to say plan things, to foresee events, to react and to adapt, and it's quite a shame really, because it's no way to live existence. And because if you spend your whole existence codependent, now there's some people who are understandably to be codependent on others. These are people who have severe, say, disabilities, and their body limits them, their mind and their body limits them. Trying to understand that would help them kind of bridge a process of like giving a bit of support a bit to them. But everyone has kind of a disability. Some are more visible than others. So like I often kind of wonder if I walk around like would people know straight away that guy's autistic. I can't tell. Like I should do it. Like it might by my manners, by my behaviour, might come across. I might have it, and that it might become obvious to people that I have like disability. Some disabilities are more visible. So you have some like autistic traits that or other type of disability traits that would be more visible in men than women. So there's a lot of women that be undiagnosed with things, and people won't be as forgiving or understanding of them. There's only 4 minute battery left here, but yeah, that's this video. I set up saying don't help those that don't help yourselves. and that depends on context. That like there's some people that can't help themselves due to like the limitations and things. But if you have, but in general, those that do have the ability to help themselves, you constantly helping them, then they'll never be able to learn to do things on their own, and then they form a codependency on you, and that isn't healthy for them. That's not being a help to them. The way you be a help to people is to empower people for them to be able to make their own choices and their own mistakes, and for them to develop their character, their intelligence. So thanks so much for watching this video anyway.